Mm. Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
All right. We're checking to see who's here.
We have Allison, Sharifa, Lorraine. Am I missing anyone? So that's who you have so far.
I know Anissa said she was coming, she confirmed. So let's just give her a minute. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? I think something. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. All right. Oh, we have Dan, we have Ashley. Hi, LaDonna.
Hello.
Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Allison. Hi, Sherifat.
Hello.
Hi, Joanne. Hi, Javi. Hi, Stephanie Hayes. Okay. All right. Hmm. I mean, we can proceed because we have quorum, right?
Yes, Eric just joined.
She just joined? Okay, great. I lost you. Okay, all right, let's get going. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's board meeting, Thursday, April 25th, 2024. This public meeting of the Hope Community Public Charter School Board is now called to order. We will now call the roll to determine if we have quorum. Lorraine Oyotobo.
Here.
Thank you. Sharifa Balogun.
Here.
Thank you. Allison Barr.
I'm here.
Thank you. Eric Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, can you come off mute, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was having some issues. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And Anissa Bailey. She's not here. Okay, a quorum has been determined. And we will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. We have an agenda to review. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve today's agenda.
This is Allison. I move to approve today's agenda for Thursday, April 25th.
Thank you, Allison. May I have someone second the motion?
This is Lorraine. I second the motion.
Thank you, Lorraine. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? No, the agenda is approved. And board members, we also have the minutes to review from our last board meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
No.
I don't have any. No one has. Okay, great. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes from the
March 21st, 2024.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Sharifa. It's Sharifa. I move to approve the board minutes from March 21st, 2024.
And I'm
Thank
Eric Johnson, I second.
Thank you, Sharifa and Eric. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Any nays or abstentions? So no, the minutes we approved will be online, and the minutes from this meeting will be approved at the May board meeting. The recording will be available in 24 to 48 hours, and these actions are based on the Open Meetings Act. Today we'll hear updates from PLA and Hope on the purpose of the school, and we'll start off with the principal's report. Actually, no, we have an introduction. Formal
Hi.
introduction.
Hi, Carrie. This is Andrea. So I am honored to have the opportunity to introduce Miss LaDonna Johnson. LaDonna has had a lot of experience and have worn a lot of hats in the field of education prior to coming to PLA. She joined PLA about 5 years ago, and I can tell you, because I've worked right alongside LaDonna, you are getting a rock star to work with, and you will absolutely love learning and working alongside, and she will love learning from all of you as well. So welcome, Miss LaDonna.
Thank you, Andrea, for that warm welcome. I do know the principal report is called for on the agenda next, but I unfortunately need to report that Dr. Owens unfortunately had a medical emergency, and so he was unable to join. It was a schedule, but it unfortunately took a longer and won't quite recover. So I will present on his behalf if that would be okay with our board of directors.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So here in the report, it shows that
Hold on. I'm sorry, LaDonna. We've met in person, but the other board members have not met you as yet. If you could just introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about, your recent visit to the school, things like that.
Absolutely. And thank you for putting me in with the breaks. I did have the opportunity to sit and we've met Carrie. I've also met one other board member, but those who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I would like to, definitely introduce myself as the new executive director who will be working side by side with the staff and Dr. Owens at Hope leading us. I want to also would be remiss not to say Melissa has definitely essentially planted a foundation and has already ran I told Carrie, the first 3 legs of the race in this relay. And so she's passed the baton, and I know she will be continuing from the sideline, cheering us on to the finish line. So thank you for everyone who's given me that warm welcome, and I look forward to working and continuing to push our academics forward.
Okay. Thank you, LaDonna. And before you move into the principal's report, I just want to say that Melissa is not here with us today. But the meeting's recorded, her colleagues are on the call. I just want to say thank you to Melissa for working with Hope from when we first transitioned to this period in time. I know she's put a lot of heart and energy and sincerity into her role and passion for education and making sure that the students and the teachers and everyone involved had what they needed, and also moving us forward to this point. So I just want to publicly thank Melissa for her time and service, and it's much appreciated, and we'll miss her, but welcome, LaDonna.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. So now I'm going to Mr. Owens' report. Happy to continue to report that as we continue to move forward, we're now at 254 scholars. I know that Mr. Barrington will speak more about that during his enrollment update. He wanted to mention about the daily attendance and the efforts that are being made to continuously contact parents and ensure that scholars are able to have the transportation needed to get to school on a daily basis. That was one area he wanted to talk about, and I'm able in my report to even speak a little bit more on something, an area we've been able to close to help with that. The after school program, currently there are 20 scholars that are enrolled, and it seems to be going off as a success with the tutoring after school. the father-daughter dance. I believe one of our board members had the opportunity to take his daughter to the dance and participate in that. And I'm sure Dr. Owens and the entire Hope team, myself, are very grateful for that. And that went very well.
It did. It did.
Awesome. Thank you for that report. So he wanted to make sure that was mentioned. Upcoming Esteem Carnival for May 9th. Again, Mr. Barrington will probably speak more about that. We are currently in book fair mode as we speak. Prom is slated for the 22nd. We have a choir performance, and of course, excited about the upcoming 8th grade promotion and graduation moving, and of course, in the pre-K moving to kindergarten. So those were some of the areas that Dr. Owens had in his report. And I am here for questions. And if I'm not able, of course, there are some team members on here that may be able to speak more as well. Well, if not, I'll definitely go into my report. So one of the things as I transitioned into the role I wanted to do was really look to see where we were at the beginning of the year and collect some data points to where we are now. And there was some great highlights that I wanted to make sure that the board was apprised of. We take a common formative assessment with our Eureka Math. That is our core math curriculum. And so with each unit, there's some assessments that are given. And so back in September, when I took the first data point, we were averaging around 9.2% of our scholars being proficient. That means on grade level. And so now currently, when I looked at the current data, we're up to 19.8% of scholars being on grade level. So definitely something for the team to be proud of, it, to not only closing the gap and growing, but to actually have scholars on grade level and performing at a mastery level. Another data point came from our close read formative assessment. And so this one, it's where our scholars get the opportunity to read a passage. And by using text evidence, really being able to identify the main idea, central idea, and a few key questions. Again, in September, around 7.2% of our scholars were showing proficient, and now we're up to 19.7%. So that was another area of growth. And the last data point that I wanted to bring was K2 foundational skills, again, around our math foundational skills. So we were at 53% of the scholars in kinder on grade level up to 70. So those were 3 data points. And so I really wanted the team to be able to celebrate with the board areas where we have shown improvement and that the systems in place, as well as really having our PLA model in place where we can actually see the growth from beginning of the year up into current.
Do you have any, that's really, I mean, it's really great to see the numbers trending in the right direction. Any insights into more specifically what's kind of driving some of that improvement, just in thinking about replication and as we continue to close out the year?
Absolutely. So during my visit just this week, in fact, I was there Monday through Thursday, we did an end of year, what we call instructional review. And one of the things that we noticed that really improved was small group instruction. During my time, I gave the scenario to the team, and it was the entire leadership team. So Dr. Owens, the counselor, as well as our assistant principal, at the beginning of the year, at the scale of 1 to 10, what would you say would be the rating of small group instruction? And at the time, they were very honest and said it was anywhere from a 0 to a 1. And now, end of year, that same question was asked, and we're sitting at about 70% of our teachers, specifically in math and ELA, are providing small group instruction daily. So that is what I would say the key driver to the success has been, is truly implementing the model and having those interventions. And I know that Ms. Hopkins will speak more about the intervention, but having that built-in intervention time to truly meet our children where they're at, so that we can grow them to that proficiency rate. When we are in whole group instruction, we're teaching on grade level material, but being able to have that opportunity to scale back and truly scaffold and pull back those layers to build our scholars up would be what I would say is the biggest driver. And that was uncovered during that review that we just did this week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Another 2 data points that I just wanted to point out, that scholar attendance is sitting around 88% and staff attendance around 95%. The reason I wanted to point this out, and Ms. Allison, I believe that this goes right into that. When our teachers are at work every day, our scholars are receiving consistent instruction versus when we're having to either split classes or get subs. And so I wanted to highlight that 95% staff attendance is truly another area to applaud the staff for showing up every day for our kids. So those were some data points that I wanted to ensure that the board was aware, and also during my uncovering to see where we're at. So I know where we're at so we can continue to grow. And the next point here, if I may, Ms. Hopkins has interventions, but there were some before I pass it to her, that way I won't have to necessarily jump back. There was a few updates and reminders. We talked about that instructional review, which I just explained. We took the beginning of the year and we went into every single classroom and asked the leadership questions as to things that were happening at the BOY, and EOY did a comparison. That happened this week. I also wanted to talk about that effective May 1st. After my last visit, I was concerned that we were not able to truly reach all of our parents. So we're going to incorporate our robocalls through Power School, where literally if you want to send a message to 3rd grade, you just hit 3rd grade scholars that are in Power School, and as opposed to having all these simultaneous different systems, we use the one system and we're able to reach our parents. It posed a safety issue for me of not really being able to ensure that all parents could be reached. And now that it will also enhance being able to get those attendance calls out. So those who are not in attendance, we can make those calls as well. Another area that I know Carrie and I kind of talked about was around cashless payment system. We would really like to move to a where we're not necessarily accepting cash at the counter. And I know the ops teams is on here who can probably talk a little bit more about the Clover payment system when they come up during the agenda. And last, right now, we are, of course, taking our DC CAPE. We're in the process of that, and that window will close on May the 24th. So I'll pause for questions, and then I will pass it over to Ms. Hopkins for intervention updates.
This is Carrie. Only thing I would add here, the cashless payment systems, if we could really we talked about that at the end of the last school year, and the whole year has gone by.
Yes, ma'am.
It's something that should be a priority to get up and running before the next school year.
So will do.
Happy to, and also the using Power School more effectively. You know, there's a cost to this system, and it has many features, and the more we can use, the better I think we can be there. So yeah.
Will do. Thank you for that push, and I will hope to report that it's up and running here within our next couple board meetings. And Ms. Hopkins, I'll turn it over to you for the intervention report.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I can't see myself, but hopefully you all can see me. All right. So I just wanted to give some overarching context. Although the slides go in depth, it's really as a reference point for you to be able to sort of go back, and if you're thinking and looking for what's going on with intervention, this would be like a great place where that information will be housed. And so I did an overview on what intervention looks like on different grade levels and what assessments look like on those different grade levels. Here are 2 great snapshot moments. This was from our photo shoot, and just showing like that intervention, that second layer in the classroom supporting instruction. So this is just 2 of our interventionists being featured here. And so I think the maximizing instruction is definitely like a triangular approach, right? We have our base curriculum, we have our general ed teacher, and then we have our interventionists. And so we need them to be working in tandem. We need them to have common vision and purpose to make sure that we're like providing scholars with the very best to close those gaps, because that's what intervention is really trying to do. Fine tune and give that extra support where it may not be available with time and capacity within the general ed classroom setting. And so in math and reading intervention, well, in math, we are using ongoing data to support what students should be doing in intervention. So it is a direct offshoot of what's happening in the classroom. And in reading intervention, it's really based on where those students score, and then they sort of are logged into the system, and that system determines what lessons they should be learning. And so that's where we see a difference between what happens with math, which is more responsive to short cycle data, whereas reading instruction is connected to benchmark assessment. Why we're still here. Okay. We can keep going. And so we I think the connections that we have between what's happening in the classroom and what's happening in intervention are strong, and it's been something that we've continued to get stronger at. Intervention groups are working every day without fail. The only inhibitor to intervention would be student attendance. And so that's something we continue to tackle, send out letters and contact families and reinforce the importance of them being there so that they can get this extra layer of support and service. But our teachers, specifically as we have been in the window of preparing for this DC CAPE exam, teachers and interventionists have been going above and beyond. We have groups going on at lunchtime. We have groups going on at recess time. And we have students coming faithfully to give up this time to meet with teachers during the middle school advisory time. So there are 3 points in the day when teachers and interventionists are pulling students to have extra small group work time. And I really think that that's to say casually, the biggest bang for our buck is to have more of that interface between teacher and interventionist in small groups. Students are tracking their own data and really being able to figure out where their issues are and resolve it. And I think it's really the combination of the interventionist and teacher working together to support all these additional groups outside of their traditional classes that's really going to push us over the edge. And so it's one thing that we got to gradually, but keeping this, and even I had that discussion with interventionists and teacher in our PLC this week, is like what we're doing now is what we need to start doing in the beginning of the year. The tracking of data, the organization of what students need to prioritize and how we attack those sub skills that they're lacking, the things that they're doing now in the window of DC CAPE prep are the things that are like strong tools for success in our next school year. So I think it's more of what we got to later, but glad that we got there because I think it's going to help take us where we need to be for sure. And so we continue to host our PLCs. Our theme in our testing grades 3 through 8 is Camp CAPE. That represents cultivating academic motivation in preparation for the DC CAPE. And so we get into what we call our boot camp mode. And it's when we do extra. It's when we go above and beyond. It's when people are really digging deep and sacrificing and putting more time in. But I really love the strategy that we've come up with. And I can't wait to think about how this rolls into the structure of next year and really starts us on a high note and a very strategic note. And that is my overall. Any questions about intervention or intervention in the classroom and that preparation for DC CAPE? All right. Thank you
Um,
all for your
I
attention.
do have a
Oh,
question, sorry,
oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure. So for the DCK, so we're not reaching, are we communicating to parents to, in preparation for K?
I do believe a letter went out just to alert parents to the testing window. But I believe recently we discussed sending out something that specifically gives them a May calendar or May insight to how that's going to look, especially because we need students rested and ready to conquer the test. And so that's where we need our parents to support us. And so that is definitely in our May communication to say, hey, this is what you should look out for. These are the dates. This is the test they're going to be taking. These are the dates. This is what we need from you. This is what we're doing. And so that is communication to roll out as we kind of give out that closing of the school year information. So parents have a map of it and students have a map of it. Inside the building, we're posting those things for students to see, but we'll also make sure we communicate it to parents, add it to our lobby slide broadcast, and then share it out on our platforms.
Okay, and you mentioned absenteeism, right? So how are we dealing with that in the grand scheme of things?
Well, a couple of incentives. So, we have been giving awards to students who show up for intervention. We've added intervention points into our live school system where we give students points for, the various positive things that they can do to contribute to the culture. Under the intervention section, we're giving points for their showing up, for showing grit, for showing perseverance, because in those small settings sometimes it can be challenging and harder to be risky when you feel like the spotlight is on you. So we want to push them that even through those hard moments, be here, show up, don't give up. During our special pools where teachers actually have been digging in their pockets and getting little incentives for students and little snacks to reinforce, like, hey, you come for this time, and if you're here you get this incentive. I've even seen teachers ordering pizza at the end of the week when they've come all week to get that incentive. We For our attendance, we are doing monthly perfect attendance celebrations. We are doing, and so what we did, like, for what was it, March, it was build your own milkshake or Sunday. So we do these little things. They also get additional live school points for those attendance factors. So between the awards, the celebrations, the live school points, and we've also given awards to parents and gift cards, a raffle to parents of the students who had perfect attendance for the month. So that's been a very big push. Overall with attendance, but then specifically with the lens on intervention, that being an extra way to earn some goodies and some points.
And Carrie, if I may add to that, I was able to witness attendance meeting. I sat in one while I was there. So what happens is a report comes out, and scholars who miss, it's a 3, 5, 7 day report up to and plus 10 who miss. There's a conversation, and that it was the front office, the social worker, Dr. Owens was there, and so they're calling parents at 3 days. Attendance letters go out each time as well. And then we're asking for an attendance meeting because according to OSCE, once it reaches 10 days of unexcused absence, we're then to report to Department of Human, DHA, in order to make sure that there's not anything that is happening that needs to be brought to authorities' attention. So those are some additional items and weekly attendance meetings that are happening with that focus as well.
And what are some of the root causes of is it certain children, or like, what are the reasons? Is there a reason that pops up more than others? Do they need additional type of social services support? Like, what do we see as the root causes of the absenteeism?
Oh, and I'm going to ask see if Mr. Barrington has any additional on this, but what I saw in this, I heard in this one meeting, unfortunately, is that we're not getting the excused absent, whether it was a doctor's note or a dentist visit. And so with not bringing that information in within a certain amount of days from the absentee, that it's causing it to show up as a unexcused absent. I did hear that quite a bit. And now parents are wanting to bring letters in, but we're trying, it has to happen within a window of time in order for that to be excused. And I'll see if Mr. Tolliver has any additional to add on possible high reasons that he noticed for attendance.
Well, the only other thing I would add to it is that I know that well, some of the families that I'll say our EL families, one thing we've noticed through conversation and being culturally sensitive is that so for some of the parents, this experience is a little bit different, whereas though their child might not have been able to, or it wasn't a requirement for their child to come as much as it is here. So that's one of the understandings or one of the things that we identify. So we continue to have follow-up conversations with those families. But other than that, that's pretty much it. We just try to be proactive throughout this process to make sure that everyone is inside of the school and every day ready for education.
Do we have any tools that parents or guardians can use to record, late arrivals or absences? A system like School Pass or, where they can upload stuff, they can say they, instead of having to physically sometimes drop off a note or something, you can, if you have to pick up early, they can put in the system so it's recorded, or like, are we using technology for anything like that, or are we relying on just people bringing in paper notes?
To my knowledge, from what I can see, we're still doing things manually. Paul, will the increase in Power School, will it enhance where that function may be available?
The messenger feature, no, but correct me here, the campus, do we have Parent Square, Dojo for there? Because I believe those platforms have two-way communication. If we don't, I'll source something that allows a solution that allows us to get it into the 21st century.
Yeah, right, aside from just email where we can scan the notes, or I'm thinking of a
Dropbox feature.
Dropbox or either a barcode. Many of our families, I would say, we need to push them to really, get used to some of the technology. However, I'm thinking of if I had a barcode and it took me to a Google Drive where you could just put the scholar's name and upload here, take a picture and upload, where we're not necessarily having to have an additional fee. And what I'm thinking, the more platforms that we have, unfortunately, the less that may be used. So the more we can streamline. So thank
I
you
can create
for that
something
push.
through Google.
I definitely believe that's something we can create.
Lorraine says they do have Class Dojo there on campus.
Yes, and I also have another question, because as a parent that this is my situation, because I will forget to bring the note back in. But what I will do is that I will email attendance at, I think it's like at Tolson or Hope Tolson, something like that. But then when I talk to Ms. Garcia, she doesn't have access to that. So then I'm like, oh, okay, well, who has access to that email? You know what I mean? Because that is an email that we could send things to. But I don't know if anyone, like, who has the login for that.
And I have made note of that to get the answer to that, and I will be able to bring that back to the next board meeting. And just so I'm clear, there's an email attendance at Tolson Hope, but the question is, who monitors the inbox for this?
Yes.
Okay. Yes,
that is an email that we could use, like Sharika said, like we can scan it. I have done that before, but then when I come in, I'm talking to Ms. Garcia, she's like, oh no, I didn't see it, email it to her. But even that, sometimes I will admit I will forget to then come back and email it to her again. So if we could email it to attendance, because I email it and I title it like, my son's name, his grade, and the date that he was absent, and then I attach the note. So I feel like that can be an easy way.
And thank you for bringing it to us from a parent perspective. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, something to think about as I know it's May and, I'm sorry, it's April. It's almost May. We're in the downshift now for the school year. So, but it's definitely something that technology is our friend. I think most people have a cell phone, and I think if there are things that people can just do on the fly and quickly as possible is always helpful. Obviously, more than one method is helpful as well, but if you have an email, it needs to be monitored appropriately, and then the information dispersed to the teachers and whomever needs to know. But if we have the technology in place already, let's make sure that you have someone looking into how we can utilize it better, right? I mean, we're paying for a subscription already. I'm sure it's, some things you don't have to pay more, just have to unlock. So I think that's something we should be looking into, because not every parent's the same. So some people like to be on the phone, some people want to bring paper in. Let's just make sure we're as wide as possible in being able to capture that information.
Will do.
Okay.
Receive. Yes, ma'am.
Board members, any other questions or comments about this? No, okay, all right, next category, who's up next? So I have to scroll back up. Mr. Tolliver, you're up next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, thank you. So I'll just go through some of the highlights that I was able to capture since our last board meeting. Our PTG, as far as enrollment, it has increased.
What's PPG, Mr. Tolliver?
So our percentage as far as
Okay.
students
Oh,
that
okay.
are, yes, as far as enrollment. So it relates to enrollment. So we have 253. We will have 254 tomorrow. There's a parent who will actually enroll her scholar tomorrow. So we're looking forward to receiving that. Thank you, Ms. Walter, putting their percentage to goals. So PTG, in reference to the acronym percentage to goal. So we're at 253. Thank you for that, Ms. Walter. Which is a great segue in reference to me connecting with the National Director of Scholar Enrollment every day, which is Ms. Walter. We both have had conversations in reference to increasing the enrollment. So right now, with the intent to return, we're at 126, which means we still have a few scholars who have not returned their intent to return form as of yet, but I continue to focus on the intent to return. We try to keep students as well as families engaged and happy so they can return. But along with this, I also have a table promoting the intent to return forms, as well as some other information that I disseminate to parents every day. I continue to review the My School DC applications. We have 136 families that were contacted via email as well as telephone calls. I continue to work on the parent portal registrations. So the parent portal registrations actually help our parents to receive information in reference to their child's grades, but also they have the opportunity to join Power School, and they receive the messages that we just talked about in reference to being able to check their child's attendance, but they also can receive, let's say, flyers or information related to families through the portal as well. So it's important that we continue to work on getting our parents registered. During the spring break last week, we had the opportunity to present to some of our EL families that are new to Washington, D.C. So that went great. We had the opportunity to speak to parents in reference to enrolling their scholar into our school. So I'll continue to follow up with those families. We have our STEAM Carnival, which is on May 9th. So it will be from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Mr. or Dr. Bradford, he and I are working together to make sure the STEAM Carnival is fun for all of our students. We have 2 or 3 community partners that will also participate as well. They will be able to bring in their drone or also just bring in a device related to robotics to help students on that day, but also help students to see how fun it is to continue to be a part of STEAM and why it's important as far as STEAM in their educational development as well as the curriculum. And I continue to have open house sessions. I actually had one today. Sometimes the open house sessions that I have, sometimes they may not be on my calendar. However, there are some parents who are interested. So just like for an example, today a parent was interested. I told her to come right on in. We had a tour of the school. And so that will be the potential parent that will come in tomorrow to register her child for this school year. And last but not least, for the Hope Monthly Connections, I just have a few things that I continue to engage in to help with our parents' engagement. So we have the morning coffee talks, which are monthly, the parent teacher organization meetings, as well as the food pantry and the enrollment and re-enrollment table set up for parents. And that's all I have, but I'll continue to work in reference to our percentage to goal. The goal for me right now is to reach 269 before the end of the school year. So that's a daily action, which is being engaged with the community. For right now, that's all I have.
Ms. Tolliver, you said there were 136 applications in my school DC. How many of them were we able to convert so far? Or we're still kind of, waiting to see.
So for right now, 6 have transferred over, and so that is the reason why I continue to engage in sending emails, telephone calls, but also being able to every day get into the community and also pass out flyers and connect with people so we can continue to recruit scholars. So the percentage to go right now is 253, but my goal is to reach 269 before the end of the school year.
Did we have a letter or something we're sending out, or do we have something that we're sending to these people's homes, or are they just phone calls and emails?
Good question. So there, let's say 3 or 4 different things going on. So I'm sending out the pre-registration form through Power School. Parents are able to just fill out a few questions. Once I approve them on my end, they're able to receive the additional information to continue registration. That's one piece. The second piece is, like you said, telephone calls, but also sending parents right now the STEAM Carnival information. So that is via email, just trying to help them see what our students are engaged in, but then also inviting our parents to our food pantry as well. So just trying to make sure that parents are engaged, and I want to let the parents know that, we're here as you make your decision. Please give me a call so I can help walk you through the process. But right now, those are the 3 or 4 things that I'm working with as far as the families, to make them see why we're different from the other 4 or 5 schools right in our same area, which is important.
Miss Carey, if I may add to that, the STEAM Carnival event is our large enrollment event that that our plan is, of course, to invite all of those families, and that is where we're really looking to table and have those families complete the remaining of the registration. So it is our hope that that they will come out and participate at that event, so that, number one, they get a chance to see all things hope and see the awesome STEAM program, and the opportunity for the scholars to really see the essence of hope. So that's what we're leaning towards with that STEAM Carnival, and all families are going to receive invitation to that event.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Walter. Thank you. Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions here. So we can keep things moving along. I know we have Dan who's been on hold. I think Eva's probably still on the call. To
Yes.
discuss the next school year budget.
Yeah,
I
let's
think we
hey,
also have, we have
oh,
a
go,
vote-
Carrie.
so we'll have a vote today as well, right, Dan? Did we decide that? We vote today or next time?
We can definitely vote as long, I think maybe
Okay.
we wait to see what kind of questions look like. I always like to kind of set it up so that if we need to do like a go back, give the board more time, but yes, we can vote if everyone feels good about. Hey, also, as Carrie mentioned, we're going to go through the budget presentation. This has already been reviewed by the finance committee to be presented to the full board. Real quickly, sort of executive summary for what y'all should see over the next 6 slides. We have a break-even budget. It has a little bit of conservatism built into it around the per pupil funding rate increase. The biggest risk factor that we'll get into is being able to meet the enrollment target. That's 254 students, which you heard Mr. Talavar just talk about enrollment. It's an increase of 27 students over our current school year's funded number. We have the ongoing imbalance between our facility per pupil facilities allowance, that's the revenue line item, and our rent. For those of all who've been on the board for a couple of years, you've heard me talk about this before, but I'll bring that up. And then, so that's sort of always something we're contending with. But then also we have this year, all schools are starting to see the conclusion of all of the ESSER funding, which we've seen over the past 3 years or so. And so that represents a revenue decrease. It was all one-time funds that were provided to schools during the pandemic. To offset this, we have staff roster has been reduced slightly, and we also have some one-time curriculum purchases from the prior year that we're not going to have again this year because we're not proposing to adopt any new curriculums. And so let's go through these 6 slides. You're exactly in the right place, Christina. So net income, days of cash, just we're budgeting for a break-even budget in FY25. We have revenue is almost exactly lined up with expenses. This does compare to the current school year, fiscal year. We have a positive net income projection of a little bit over $500,000. That was due to some one-time infusion related to the WTU funding for schools. And then, as I mentioned, we're losing a lot of that ESSER money this year. And so that's why we can't maintain that high positive net income. We're budgeting a $1 million decrease in these ESSER funds. And correspondingly, the expenses from this school year to next school year are budgeting to decrease by almost $500,000. So we're trying to adjust from that, but still it's tough to get all the way down. The one thing Hope has always had working in its favor is we have a very high cash balance, and so we can weather a break-even budget really well. Right now, we will be projecting it to end with this budget. We'd be projecting to end this coming next school year with $3.5 million in cash, which is about 150 days, represents about 150 days of cash. And if you just want to think from a benchmark perspective, from how the PCSB thinks about it, is anywhere above 90 days is considered like a really strong cash position. So we have no sort of sustainability concerns at this point. Christine, would you mind looking? We're going to spend the next 2 slides looking a little bit more in depth in revenue, a little bit more on expenses. So the largest driver of revenue, it's our enrollment. So that is the key factor. There's sort of 2 key factors we have going in. One is what's our enrollment. We're budgeting for 254 students. That is an increase of 27 students over this current school year. And then the other key factor is what are the per pupil funding rates. And so we are assuming a 10% increase to the per pupil funding rates. The mayor's initial school budget represented a 12.4% increase. So we have a little bit of conservatism there. It represents a bit over $100,000. The DC Council, for anyone that's tracking this really well, the DC Council has talked about making some changes to the mayor's budget, but I'm not hearing that anything is related to reducing that per pupil funding increase. So this is continuing to look more and more conservative of how we're approaching things. And the other big change, which I mentioned already, is the disappearance of ESSER. So by by the end of next year, by halfway through the end of next year, all of our ESSER money will have been drawn down. And so then that puts us much more in a position where we historically have been, where we're primarily funded on the per pupil local dollars. We have about $350,000 in ESSER revenue remaining. And so it's just another thing to think about is while we're dealing with some of it this coming year, we're also going to have to be thinking about it in the next future years. And the way that we'll be able to contend with that is continuing to push up enrollment, because that's really the key lever for us. And then finally, there is no assumption of any private fundraising, private grants going in. So we didn't try and do that to make the budget balance. We're assuming all public dollars. Christine, if you wouldn't mind going on the expenses. So for expenses, we're mostly keeping the same structure as we had this year. I did mention earlier, we're decreasing staff expenses. That's in recognition of the loss of most of this ESSER funds. No classroom staff are being removed from this current school year. And then also we are budgeting for $100,000 less in direct student expenses, particularly in the textbooks category. And that is not meant to signal a reduction in how much we're spending on our students. It's more just because last year we had some one-time expenses with a new curriculum adoption. And so the spending that we have this coming year is going to be a lot less because it's more of like kind of what you'd call maintenance spending. The rent continues to represent a large percentage of our total expenses, and the comparison that schools will typically do is you look at our per pupil facilities allowance and then the rent or the loan payments that the school is making, and you want them mostly to equal themselves, because otherwise, if the facilities allowance is less, it means you're going to have to dip into program dollars to afford your building. And so for us, our facilities rent next year is 1.7 million, and our facilities allowance is 0.9 million. So that means that almost an additional $1 million of quote unquote program revenue must be used to cover our rent expense. And I think what's driving that combination of we're under enrolled within the capacity of the building, and then also I think likely the rent that we pay on a per square footage basis is a bit higher than what is what the market would have currently. And then these final two slides, Christine, if you want to go to the next one. So these ones are more just informational for you all. And so what this is this represents the universe of the other DC charter schools. What I have laid out these are the key expense categories. And then that solid circle represents Hope. And then that sort of light cross or plus sign represents the median. And what I wanted you all to see is just the difference of where we are and how we're allocating our dollars relative to the charter schools in DC. And I'll just kind of briefly go through. You can see salaries, we are well below the median. The reason for that is not because we compensate our staff less or we have lower salaries. The salaries are very competitive. It's that because PLA represents a number of salary positions, most schools do not have a management organization, and so that shows up in a different category, and so that's what's going on there. The key one to look at is what I just talked about, and so if you go down to the second to last row, oh sorry Christine, would you mind going back, is that rent line, and so you can see that is where Hope is way above pretty much everyone else as to how much on a per pupil basis we're allocating to rent. And so again, that's just sort of, it's nothing that can be changed for next year. It's more just like an understanding of sort of the structural issues that we have to deal with. And so, yeah, Christine, if you wouldn't mind going down to that last slide. And so the other one is office and business expense. That, and I have that note in there, that is where the management fee for PLA shows up. And so that's just, it's a requirement of the Public Charter School Board to allocate it to that category. And so again, I didn't want you all to think that we are just putting like a ton of money into office and business expense. It's more that like you kind of have to think about that and the salaries category together. But other things that's you could see we're sort of right in the middle, right at the median on how much we're spending on students. We don't show up on the interest expense line. That's because we don't have any debt on our books. And we not carrying any significant depreciation or amortization. And then the following slides on here, I don't think we need to go in detail, but I just want to provide to everyone so you could see sort of line by line, account by account, the full budget that we're requesting approval of, as well as a comparison of what it's been this year. So I'll pause for a sec, open up for questions. Eva, please feel free to jump in as well. LaDonna, like whoever wants to field the questions, please do.
Absolutely. And I would just wrap up while everyone's thinking of their questions that, overall we have conservative on the revenue side, but we also know there are always those unexpected expenses that pop up. So that's really the best way to go into the year. Enrollment is the key, as Dan shared. Looks like we're tracking really well there, and we'll continue to monitor that pretty much daily across the board. And that is really our path with ESSER coming to a full conclusion this year. That gives us a little bit more of a runway to next year to be prepared. And then finally, we've really been planning for the end of ESSER for 18 months. So every month when we review financials, every time we review rosters, it is with that in mind, so that it is a smooth end of ESSER as opposed to the fiscal cliff.
Allison, anything to add?
No, I think, Dan, you explained it really well. Eva, thanks for the context. And, we reviewed this a couple of weeks ago on the finance committee, so had the chance to kind of go through line by line. So, I think it looks good.
Yeah, I would second that as well. I think we've gone through it pretty well over the last couple of weeks, last meetings we've had. I know it comes up every year, even before I was board chair, about the rent of the school. I'm going to go on the record here, and this is a recorded meeting. Our landlord and our sub landlord have not been amenable to renegotiating this rent for the school, which quite frankly isn't relatable or correlates with any other schools in the area, in Ward 5 in particular. We're being charged rates that quite frankly are K-Street rents, which isn't, I think, fair for a school in any capacity. I have tried working with them, asking questions. How can we do better? And quite frankly, have gone nowhere with them. And I just want that to be on the record here, that I'm really at a loss in terms of what are we supposed to do next, because the rent is just going to kill us over time. Yeah, I'm out of options at this point in terms of what to do with the rent, other than the flip side of that is that enrollment is going to have to continue to grow. And the enrollment is not just a Mr. Tolliver issue or Dr. Owens issue. Everyone on this call, everyone in the school, at PLA, it's everyone's responsibility at this point to make sure that we can get to 270. 270 scholars minimum this year. And that number is going to have to grow for this school to make it financial. I'm just saying. As you can tell, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Any other board members with comments on the budget? Dan and Eva have done a really great job in building this out for us this year. And I think we could probably just do a vote to get it passed so that Dan can do his next steps. Any objections to that? Nope. Okay. All right. So I would like to make a motion to approve the break-even budget for the school year 24 to 25. May I have someone make a motion to approve the budget?
It's Eric Johnson. I make a motion to approve the budget. 2024, 25, 24, 25, right?
Yes. Thank you, Eric. May I have someone to second?
I'll second.
Thanks,
Tolson.
Rena. Thanks, Allison. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more ayes?
Aye.
Okay, great. Any nays or abstentions? Doesn't seem that way. The budget for 24-25 is approved. Dan, you're good to go for next steps.
Thank you. I'll get it over to the charter school board.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. That's good. Any committee updates, academic committee? Well, Melissa would normally jump in at this point and probably give an update there, or Dr. Owens, and Anissa, and neither of them are on the call. I'm not sure. LaDonna, you haven't had an opportunity to attend any academic committee meetings or anything like that,
I
right?
did not, no ma'am.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, we'll just keep things moving along. I'm sorry, back to the budget piece and financials. I don't remember which board meeting, Paul, if you're on the call.
I'm here, ma'am.
Okay, we had talked about the school bus.
Yes.
Yes, so we had approved getting a new school bus, and we talked about it briefly in the, I'm not sure it was the last
Finance
financial
committee.
committee meeting. We had put a hold on it until we had more information. The current school bus is quite frankly quite old, and we could lose our only mode of transportation. I just want to go ahead and say we should move forward with procuring a new bus for the school. We have the funds set aside for that already. That's already earmarked, so it's not looking for anything new or taking from another bucket. Sir Paul, you have permission to just go ahead with that project.
Understood. Would you, and just for clarification,
Mhm.
would you like me to bring some options to the finance committee meeting or run everything through Dr. Owens and LaDonna as far as the specific vehicle purchased?
I think running through internal first, LaDonna and Dr. And Clifford, and then a final can just come to the finance committee. Yes, I'm not the expert there, but we'll lean on you and the team for that.
Absolutely. I'm ready to help.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Paul. Paul, speaking
Yes.
of updates, are there any, I know we are still searching for operations person. Are any updates you want to share at this point?
We've conducted interviews. I believe we have a promising candidate that we're looking to finalize here. I don't have the exact runway for like onboard, but my goal is to have it before the end of the school year. So we're just cleaning some things up, but we have a very promising candidate that was interviewed just this past week.
Okay, all right. And if there's anything at the school you want to update us on at this point in time?
Just to briefly update, we're working through, Aussie opened up the corrective actions for the campus's culinary audit. So I apologize, I don't have the final cleaned up letter for everyone this evening, but there's no fiscal actions out of the audit, which is the best case for any culinary audit that a campus can run through.
Okay, all right. And the day-to-day, since we don't have someone on the ground for day-to-day, is how are things going?
Very well. I've been leaning in with Mr. Ray to help kind of take care of everything culinary program. He's done a phenomenal job making sure that our culinary program is top notch there at the campus. And then looking into things like the HVAC system, he's been very helpful. So Mr. Ray is phenomenal. I rely on him for quite a bit of that day to day, and he updates me whenever there's issues.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And I have open lines with Dr. Owens as well. He has my cell phone number. He can call me anytime he needs anything.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Okay, great. All right.
Carrie, I just
yeah.
wanted to add, while we were in the updates, to give an update on our notice of concern with the mystery caller. So we did attend, and of course you were a part of that, but just to make the entire board apprised, the board meeting, and the letter of concern was issued. However, there are steps to have that lifted. It was to have our staff member, particularly principal, front office, and enrollment clerk, to attend a training, which they all attended the next day. And so over the course of the next several months here, the next several weeks, I should say, because school will be out, additional calls will be made, and our front office, not only have they been trained, there's a script at the front office. We've ensured that anyone who may come in contact with answering the phone has the proper information, so that it does not appear that we are discriminating anyone based on any type of language disparity. So just wanted to give board an update that, and then if all goes well with mystery calls, which I will say that they will, the September meeting is when they will revote to see about lifting those letters of concern.
So the meeting that was on Monday, that's just contingent until the next round of calls happen?
That is correct. So it was a two-part. We had to attend the training that was presented by DC Public Board, as well as past future calls. So there will be another round of calls that will be made.
Okay, all right. Just for a little context to the other board, I think I may have mentioned this last board meeting, but in case I didn't, DC Public Charter School Board, they do these mystery calls to schools, all charter schools, it seems. And the question was around students with special needs or disabilities in particular. And I think there was an EL or question about EL students. Unfortunately, we did not pass the mystery call. So we were asked to attend one of their board meetings to kind of explain what happened. And when we first got the notice, PLA did do some training and looked into the situation. Additionally, our staff had to attend the DC Charter School Board training that was, I think, on Tuesday, because we did the meeting on Monday. So
it was Tuesday.
That's kind of where we are at this point.
And I should have asked this earlier, is that just an internal notice in the PCSB system, or is that something that shows up on my school? Anything that, like, how public is that information in terms of the notice of concern?
So to my knowledge, it's public information. It happened at the public board meeting. So however, with the ability to be lifted. So September. So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, if you have a different understanding, but I think we'll have to carry it between now and that September board meeting, contingent that we pass future mystery calls.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an actual physical note or something that, when you go online, I'm not sure how they do it, but I mean, the board meeting is public, so it was recorded. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate thing that happened, but things have been put in place to correct it, so. Yeah, it's all schools, as you know, we can't deny any students, charter school or public school, so despite whatever need they may have. So. Okay, all right. Any other questions around that? Okay. All right, so we have the Summer Advantage program. Who's gonna do that?
Great evening. I'm Stephanie Hayes, Executive Director for Summer Advantage. So I have the opportunity to reintroduce the Summer Advantage program to the board and all those present this afternoon. Definitely excited to hear all of the growth around small group instruction as Summer Advantage. That is the model that we hold safe to, because in each classroom we have a teacher and a teacher assistant that is ready to offer small group instruction to scholars. It is actually our safe, structured continuation to the school year, where we really focus in on the whole child through social emotional learning, robust academics in reading and math, and also our Fun Fridays with our experiences beyond the school day. So Christine, if you're scroll down to the specifics for Summer Advantage at Hope this year, So our expected enrollment number is 48 scholars. And this number was just basically derived from our persistence from the program last year. We have 5 weeks of programming dates, June 17th through July 19th. Our specific cost for each individual lever is stated here, which gives us a total cost of, I'm sorry, I can't even see the $71,533 for the program this summer. And our funding sources are identified through ESSER 3 funding and the Summer Accelerator. So I open it up for any questions around Summer Advantage.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Have we always paid through ESSER or did we pay through other funding? I don't remember.
Yes, so we've had a bit of several. I think we had the Summer Accelerator last year. And there's only a little bit of it that trickles over into ESSER, what didn't fit in the Summer Accelerator. So yes, and then last year, I believe there was one other grant, so we will fill. It's also title eligible, so we'll find a slot wherever it is best suited, first being
Okay.
the Summer Accelerator.
Okay, all right, good. And we have Ms. Hayes, and we have teachers from the school who are volunteering for this program again this year, or what's the staffing like?
Absolutely. We will staff from the building for the positions that are available for Summer Advantage.
And this is the week after school gets out. It begins the week after school gets out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is accounted for in the budget that we just approved?
Actually primarily hits the fiscal year 24 budget. So mainly in the fiscal year 24, I think there's only a week or so that looks like split in between, but yes, the two budgets.
And it's accounted for in both the budgets though, is what I'm
Correct.
asking. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. All right, if there are no other questions, I mean, this is a program we've done, I think, every year for a couple of years. You know, people attend, I think parents like it. It's a great filler. So let's see if we can do a vote. Unless there are other objections or any other questions. Okay, so may I have I would like to put a motion to approve the Summer Advantage programming for a total estimated cost of $71,533. May I have someone make a motion to approve Summer Advantage?
This Eric Johnson, make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Eric. May I have someone to second the motion?
This is Lorraine. I second the motion.
Thank you, Lorraine. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Looks like there are none. The Summer Advantage program is approved. All right, great. Are there any other agenda items to cover this evening? Nope. I would like to open the floor for any public comments. Comments should be limited to the agenda, no more than 3 minutes. So let's take a pause here in case there are any questions or concerns or observations. Okay, no raised hands. Okay. All right, so I would like to thank everyone for attending the meeting. I will also like to make a motion to move the meeting to closed session for the purposes to discuss contract and legal and personal issues. And I also like to ask Ms. Johnson, Ms. LaDonna, if she could stay on to attend closed session briefly. May I have a motion to move to closed session?
This is Lorraine, and I make a motion to move to closed session.
You have someone to second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays of abstentions, no. We'll move to closed session. For those of you who are going to drop off, thank you so much for attending today's board meeting. Ms. Christina?
Just one moment.
Okay.
You're on mute, Carrie.
Carrie.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending today's board meeting. I would like to now take a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have someone make the motion to do so?
Motion to adjourn the meeting on what day is it? April 25th.
Yep, second?
Second that motion, second.
All in favor, say
All
aye.
enthusiasm.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? No, we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.
All right, have a good evening. Bye. Thanks, Christina.
Bye.